It's lovely. Good evening, Zambia. Good evening, Africa, and warm welcome to the finest program live on MUVI television from Zambia's capital city, Lusaka. You're also watching us on Topstar Decoder channel 104, and of course, our official usual Facebook page, which is Ask MUVI. Be able to give us those comments and questions. Possibly, we'll be able to forward them to the guest I have this evening on the program. Now, among the over 70 political parties that are duly registered in Zambia under the Registrar of Societies is the Leadership Movement, which is on a mission to reclaim the Zambian vision and to deliver a greater gift to future generation, which will be called the Great Zambia. Again, party leader Richard SILUMBE has since continued assembling a team of young people in order to see to it that he and others take over Zambia one day. Practically, LM is on the ground recruiting people for employment or for jobs, of course, which is one of the agenda in its manifesto. On the other hand, the Leadership Movement believes that Zambia faces a leadership crisis on account that politicians have eyes to see, but of course they can't see properly. On the other hand, again, he believes that politicians have ears to hear, but they can't hear properly. Again, above all, he believes that corruption has consumed them all. Let's find out again, because the Leadership Movement strongly believes that the country we are living in today is what is called the old Zambia. Let's find out how old is this Zambia being described in such a manner. My guest of the program is Leadership Movement President Dr. Richard SILUMBE. He's here to make his first appearance in the year 2020. And again, allow me to welcome you. That once again, last week I did miss. Of course, allow me to appreciate Chatewa Dominic for standing in on my behalf. Of course, we appreciate you, and we appreciate that, of course, we've been together from all the way 2020 and now into one of the crucial year 2021. Doc, welcome to my program, and of course allow me to wish you a happy new year.
Thank you very much. Welcome. I really appreciate the fact that you have given me this opportunity to talk about a number of things that we have and that we have lined up as Leadership Movement. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. I know that it's very difficult for us to, most people, me, that is having a mask right now, in terms of pronouncing the words correctly because, of these difficulties. We are living under the new normal, COVID-19. But of course, I'll try by all means because, of course, we are a meter apart from each other. But again, we have no option but to mask up. And of course, I'll do that myself.
Thank you.
Please allow me that.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Fantastic. Let's begin on this note, Mr. President. In your manifesto, you've strongly mentioned something that you hate the most, and this being the issue to deal with corruption. And you've pledged in your manifesto that should you form government any time from now, you're going to deal with the issues of corruption. What measures, what weapon are you going to use to deal with this problem we have today? To start with,
first of all, when we look at the current scenario in which we are, the scenario symbolizes the government itself and the people in this country. You realize to say that we have corruption that has not only gone beyond corruption in terms of money or material things, but morally we are corrupt. And we have led leadership be so corrupt that not only are they corrupt in terms of finances or material things, but also there is a moral decay, which I call moral corruption. So as Leadership Movement, why we are in this mission to deliver the great gift to future generations is that we have seen how devastated the nation is. We are seeing leaders who have no moral compass. Leaders who are leading us to a direction that when we get to 2050, for instance, we are going to find ourselves fighting for independence again. So I'll go into these details. We are seeing how leadership has put personal interests first and not public interests first. So these are some of the things that we are looking at. And we are saying as leadership movement, enough is enough. We want to bring about leadership that is able to make the nation feel that they are part of this country again. We want Zambians to feel that they can start winning again, because as a country we are embarrassed. We are embarrassed in every direction you can look at. We are embarrassed in every sector. We are not moving forward. When we talk about the performance of our economy, it is deplorable. When we talk about the way as a country we are performing and the way we are supposed to be moving education-wise and so many other sectors, agricultural-wise, you find that Zambia is at its knees. And all these problems that we see, we know that the best solution to give is to ensure that we put leaders who feel that they are able to reform, not politicians. Politicians, they say things which do not achieve. But we want to bring about leadership that will reform the country. That's why we do not call ourselves politicians, but rather reformers. We want to reform this country. And the manifesto of the leadership movement is anchored on 4 pillars. Number 1, we want land to the Zambian people. Number 2, jobs to Zambian youths. Number 3, tax breaks and tax holidays to Zambian businesses. Number 4, support your local team. Local is laka. So in these 4 pillars, we know that we are able to deal with all these problems that we have, that have elaborated just in the passing. So now, before I can get into the details of our manifesto, let me just quickly comment on the issue of corruption. First and foremost, as leadership movement, we have said that corruption, which has gone so deep in our systems, will be dealt with in a very harsh manner. And we have proposed in our manifesto that corruption will no longer be there, would be a thing of the past, because we are going to assign it a punishment of not less than 37 years imprisonment. When we do that, we might sound harsh, but we know that we are going to deter any person who feels like he wants to pocket government resources. Any person who wants to take advantage of the system, all those people will be deterred.
That is upon being convicted.
Yes.
When you are convicted, you are in for
37 years imprisonment. Yes.
Right.
And that itself is going to deal with corruption. This is how we have dealt with issues to do with defilement. This is why we say corruption will be categorized in the area of defilement, but defilement of the state. Because when you get money from the state, you pocket public resources, you take advantage of the system, it means that you are defiling the state. And if we are able to give a punishment of 35 years imprisonment to somebody who has defiled a child, and we are seeing how these grave punishments, how they deal to society, you find that people are scared to do that. And not only are we going to look at what is happening with defilement, we have learned a lot of lessons. For instance, in China, China is only corrupt here because they know that we don't have morals, we are a rotten society in terms of looking at things, and development, no wonder they come with money and gifts and they corrupt us. Go to China today. Corruption is life imprisonment. They don't joke with corruption. Even a minister, once they hear a whisper about corruption, those people are dealt with. No wonder they are growing in folds. They are growing because nobody takes advantage of national resources. They all prudently guard their resources. I can also cite an example of how corruption has been dealt with in other areas. Let's take theft, for instance, in Russia. Theft was given serious punishment, and today you find that theft has really been minimized. In South Korea too. In South Korea, it's a place where you can leave a wallet in the streets. Somebody will find that wallet, will look for your address and send it to you, because they know that stealing was tantamount to a death penalty. So these policies, they deter people from engaging in certain activities, and corruption, because it is a number one issue that has brought this country to its knees. We want to deal with it with a deadly blow, and we are going to ensure that anybody, even myself or anybody in the government, if they pocket government resources or take advantage of the system, they are in for it. 37 years imprisonment. And within 1 year, you are going to see that nobody touches government resources, because we want to ensure that government resources are sacred. And once they are sacred, it means that we can now move forward.
Let me just chip in from there, Doc. Where is the problem in this country? Is it because we do not have punitive laws and rules that can deter people from engaging themselves in corruption? Or maybe we've got enough laws and rules, as many people have said before, but the only problem that we have is that we are failing to comply. We are failing to adhere to these rules and the laws that we have in this country. Why is the problem? Because when I hear from you, it appears that you are putting a blame somehow on the insufficient laws that we have. That's the case.
That one is the biggest promoter of corruption. I can get you to the previous days. Let's go a little bit in history. Let's look at how the MMD government fought corruption. You find that whenever people are caught stealing money, be it from the ministry, we have heard of many ministers from Ministry of Health pocketing government money. They are prosecuted. By the time the judgment is handed to a person, you find that they are given 2 years imprisonment. And that 2 years, that person would have already served it outside. So what are you saying? What message are you sending to society? You are sending a message that you can pocket money and you are not going to have any consequences to it.
So for you, the laws we have are not stiff enough?
They are not stiff enough. No wonder people are taking advantage, because they know that there is too much corruption, and besides that, there are no laws that would make somebody regret the fact that he has engaged in corruption. Yeah. So once we deal with the laws, we are going to send a serious message to everybody that this is a no-go area. And by so doing, we are going to secure our resources. Because, let's face it, government has a lot of money, a lot of sources of income. We can talk about roads, toll gates, we can talk about ZICTA. Every call you make, 30% goes to government. Every avenue you look at, there is money, revenue coming to the country, coming to government, to our coffers. But where does all that money go? It is through pilfering, abuse of resources, and so on and so forth. And there has never been any tangible punishment that can show people that when you do this, the consequences are that you are going to destroy the rest of your life. You are going to spend the rest of your life in prison. If that is happening, every person is going to learn from it, and they are going to stay away from government resources.
Is this not maybe the issue to deal with maybe the leadership style that comes about with these leaders that are presiding our affairs today in terms of the presidents coming down? You know, I want to cite an example in terms of how Dr. Kaunda, dealt with the issue of corruption. All right? There's been a little bit of difference from the time of UNIP, and then we came to the MMD, like you've cited on your own. Now we are under the Patriotic Front in terms of fighting the issue of corruption. If you remember in the UNIP, I think this song was not sung as loud as it is today. Because like it appears that our leaders had a lot of respect to national resources. If you remember, KK had also introduced what was called leadership. Is it leadership court?
Yes.
Where no leader or no serving member of parliament or cabinet minister whatsoever or civil servant was allowed to, procure huge, could it be plots and whatever vehicles and the likes, not until after you leave government. Although people quote that as a, signs of dictatorial, tendencies, but again, somehow, some people today are appreciating that somehow helped. Hence you see most of KK's children, they don't seem to have the wealth that our current leaders today have. So really, for me, maybe I want to believe that it's an issue to deal with the leaders that are occupying these offices, not really the laws that we have.
Let's look at this. First of all, we had a moral leader. A leader like Kenneth Kaunda had cultivated morality in his team. And these people were running with a certain form of morality that guarded them from abuse of resources. With minimum laws, the problem we have is we have eroded our morals. And the leadership that has come after Kenneth Kaunda has always been diminishing in terms of morality. And for you to deal with that problem, it's not by removing leaders. Let's say, I can give you an example of a constitution. For instance, you may have a defective constitution, but if you have good leaders, you will still exist as a nation. But the moment you have bad leaders, what happens? You need certain laws to guide them. So this is why we have a constitution. We would not say that because we have good leaders, therefore, even if the constitution is defective, it's okay, because there are times like this where a nation passes through a crisis, a leadership crisis. So the Kenneth Kaunda era looked at morality, and these people had enough morality to ensure that they do not become prey of material things. And hence, they led the country with that standard, with a kind of distinction that we can look at today, despite not putting certain checks in form of laws to ensure that in case we have times where leaders have lost morality, things may go to worse. So now, at this time, we would say that as much as we have leaders who have less morality scores, we still have a chance to repair the country by ensuring that we patch up in our laws. Once we put up tough laws, we are going to see that even the not so moral people would be deterred by looking at weighing the consequences against the interest, the personal interest that they have. So this is how we deal with such a situation. We would not pray for, or rather wait for a time when we are going to have perfect leadership. Perfect leadership may come or may not come at all. But what we can do as human beings is to ensure that we put specific punishment that relates to a certain situation, certain a device like corruption in this case. Now you touched the issue of stopping, let's say, ministers or government workers from owning stuff beyond their salaries. That was a good law, except that there was no much promotion of innovation and entrepreneurship in the Kenneth Kaunda government. That is where he had not, yes, he had not done a good job. Right. During that time, if we had promoted people to expand their capacities and earn whatever they earn because of their ability of entrepreneur abilities, for instance, and innovation, we would have had good businessmen, good innovators, and would have had big companies set up by Zambians themselves because they are able to make use of their own natural resources, their mind. But in that time and era, innovation was discouraged, as well as entrepreneurial activities. So that itself did not serve the country well. When we came into the era of MMD and all this, there has been a bit of entrepreneurship and innovation, but much of it has been corruption. And we don't need corruption. We want innovators. We want businesses which come out of distinction. We want creative minds. And we don't need corrupt people who just get money from government coffers, do some businesses that are bogus, of which once they are fired from their position, even their business will not go anywhere. How many people, for instance, ministers, we heard that they had so many businesses, they had trucks, and so on and so forth. The moment they left the office, what has happened to their businesses? It's because that form of business was as a result of pilfering from the government and investing in that personal business. But we want it to be independent. Right. Innovators, businessmen should be encouraged, right, but let them not get money from government positions.
Allow me to ask you one final question as we move away from the issue of corruption. My question is, when you sit as the leadership movement leader and your members, you look at all the ministries we have in this country or sectors of the economy, which sector really would you point out? Which sector or sectors would you say the 2 or 3, 4 sectors here or one single sector is much associated with corruption that we're talking about today?
I do not audit these ministries or sectors, but I would rather say that leadership movement, once we are in power, we are going to deal with the corruption that we are seeing around, and we have the police, we have the laws that we want to put across so that these things are minimized, are brought to their bare minimum.
Maybe I should simplify my question. Which ministry would you start with in fighting corruption generally?
We don't have to start with ministries.
Okay.
As leadership movement, we have to start with the national agenda. And the national agenda is to limit corruption, whatever form of corruption, to its minimum by ensuring that we put up the law that will make sure that whoever thinks of corruption, they grow cold feet or they get a heart attack, because when they compare the consequences with the petty interest they are going to get, it will be so severe that they would rather stay away from corruption. That is what we want to achieve.
As we keep on talking about the issue of corruption, of course, others, more especially those that are in power, have argued to say the song about corruption nowadays, it has become a crusade aimed at, decampaigning those that are in power, for political mileage. Do you subscribe to this?
My perception about this, and as a political party that has a mission, and of course we have our agenda, we don't think that the issue of corruption should absorb all our programs, because it's obvious that the government and people in power, they always think that when you talk about corruption, it means that you are demonizing them. But actually, apart from corruption, there are so many things, so many vices that bring this country down. And as leadership movement, what we feel that we need to focus on how much solution should we bring into this nation as a party when we come into power. And apart from the agenda for corruption, where we have put up a solution is to give them 37 years imprisonment, we have other issues that are so hot that we need to deal with as a political party. Because I know that when we engage in politicking, for instance, bickering, infighting as a nation, and finger pointing, you see, what happens is that who is gaining out of all this infighting, petty grievances, bickering as politicians? The people who are benefiting from this are the foreigners, and who, as leadership movement, have identified that these are the people we need to watch under a microscope, because these are the people who bring the country down. We have seen that foreigners are benefiting a lot from this country instead of us benefiting. The government is sleeping. Copper is going out. We don't even know where they sell the copper. Gold is going out. We don't even know where it is going. Uranium, it's being mined and going out of the country. A very expensive mineral. We have manganese. All these minerals are going out of this country. And we are here as politicians, bickering and talking, all talk, no action. Leadership movement wants to make a difference. We want to focus on solution. We don't want to be talking about things without providing the actual solution to it. We want to ensure that we get back our mines. We want to ensure that we get back our gold. We get back our copper. We audit all these minerals before they come out of our borders. Look at Mukula tree, which can be enhanced, but it's being exploited, because we don't even say we are exporting, because we don't get anything from it. Foreigners are doing this. And as leadership movement, we want to ensure that we audit our mineral resources, we audit our natural resources, like land. As we are bickering and talking and finger pointing as politicians, what is happening? Chinese and other foreigners are getting thousands of hectares of land. This is the reason why we are saying as leadership movement, if we don't fight to ensure that we put this country to a proper position, in 2050, our children and children's children will be fighting for independence, because these are the things that have happened before. When we go back to history, what happened, how did we find ourselves under colonial masters? Colonialism. They were chiefs, and there was bickering and fighting amongst chiefs and leaders and so on and so forth. Whilst foreigners, colonial masters came, signed protectorates to stop the fighting. Then they told them that you are now together. Eastern Rhodesia and Northern and Western Rhodesia, brought them together under a colonial government. And they started getting the land, started getting the resources because of our foolishness. And this is how come the children, the KKs, the Godwin Mbikusita Lewanikas, and the Hari Mwanga Nkumblas, they came and found out that their forefathers were fighting, and yet their land has been taken. They're under colonialism. They started fighting, and it was a big fight. For years, the Donald Suarez started that fight. Until 1964, we got the independence. What has happened? We've gotten the independence today, and we found that we have lost all the industries that we had, you see, because when the British colonizers, when they came to Zambia, they found that we could manufacture our own iron, we could manufacture our own copper, but they put up a law that you can only use a hole where steel has been made in Britain. If it doesn't have that label, you are arrested. Therefore, all the entrepreneurs that we had in Zambia, those who could make iron and all those things, they were stopped. And only colonial industry started booming. These are the problems that we have not repaired up to now. Today we are saying we cannot run our mines. And if you talk about mines today, the whole Zambia will virtually disagree with you. We can't run, this is a multi-billion kwacha industry. We can't do it. They forget that before the whites came to Zambia, we were using iron, we were using copper. How did those people manufacture copper? How were they extracting copper from copper ore? And all that. We have to work around that and start our development that is very sustainable by ensuring that we empower our locals. And the moment, just a minute, let me just finish this point. Right. The moment we focus on bickering and forgetting to see what is behind our eyes, we are going to keep in the same track that in 2050 we'll be fighting for independence because we forgot the errand. We forgot the most important things is to get our country back, get our minerals back, get our natural resources back. And this is what the leadership movement is preaching, that in 2021, under the leadership movement, we want to audit our land, give title deeds to every Zambian who has every square meter of land, and ensure that we get back our natural resources, audit our copper, ensure that we are getting something from every copper that leaves our borders, or uranium, or manganese, or gold. And we want to ensure that we give tax breaks and tax holidays to Zambian businesses, other than what is happening today, where tax breaks and tax holidays are being given to foreigners. Look at Lumwana. Lumwana, when it came, it was given a tax holiday for 5 years. After 5 years, what happened? They had to sell to their friends. It's now Barrick. Because the moment time comes now to start paying tax, they change their colors like chameleons, these foreigners. We empower them so they can get all the profits from Zambia, and they pretend that they are not making profit. When time comes, we had Celtel. After 5 years, it changed to Zen. After 5 years, Airtel. Now we don't know where we are going. So these are the trends that we have learned, that we empower foreigners instead of our own. It's better we empower our own people, so that foreigners from day one, when they come into our country, they have to pay tax in full. And when they do that, we would rather get maximum tax from foreigners, whilst we are letting our Zambian businesses grow bigger and better, because we need to start making investors who should come from Zambia, go to Malawi, invest in Malawi, get profit from Malawi, come and reinvest in Zambia. Because these foreign investors, they don't come here as good Samaritans to develop Mother Zambia. They come to conquer. They come to enrich themselves. They have no care about Zambian people. And whenever you tell them that they should start paying tax, they would change papers, sell to their friends, and come back and reclaim some more tax holiday.
Tell me how much you hate the foreigners, how much you hate the Chinese, the people we've highly talked about. And of course, we've heard others saying you can't run a country or develop a country in isolation. You need the help of other people. You know, but for you, it's like the message is all about local investments. It's about local production, as well as what you call support your local team and the likes. Do you intend to work with other people from other countries? Very much.
When we say these things as leadership movement, it's not that we hate foreigners. Actually, foreigners will be in Zambia. But what we don't want them to take advantage of us. We don't want them to take advantage of Zambia. Because currently what is happening to them, they just look at Africans, Zambia in particular, as fools. Because how else can you give thousands of hectares to a foreigner who doesn't have a green NRC, and you say they have come to invest, they use the same 1,000 hectares to apply for a loan from Bank of China. They start investing there. Meanwhile, you have evicted thousands of families, poor families. Then when those people bring jobs, they'll be paying those people 500 kwacha per month. The former landlords, they are now squatters in their own country. And you say, no, foreigners should. Which country operate like that? Can you go to China and be treated like that? Can you go to Russia? Can you go to Europe like that? You can't own land in those countries. So what we are doing, we are just doing things that we are expected to do to guard our own resources, but meanwhile allowing foreigners to actually come, be in Zambia as tenants, make their profit, pay the due to the country. We want to get what is due to us. We want to get our tax. We don't want to see what is happening in the copper belts. Look at the copper belts today. The copper belt is devastated. Go to Butondo in Mufurira. You are going to look at the place as if you are in Baghdad, in a war zone today, simply because the people who are running those places are foreigners and they don't care about the Zambian welfare, and all they need are profits from there. And this should give us an insight. Look at during this COVID-19 crisis, what happened to the foreign-run companies? They took advantage of that, chased away employees, laid off thousands of workers. But how many Zambian companies laid off their workers? Because we feel for them. We feel like these are our fellow Zambians. Therefore, a company would struggle with their workers. But foreigners have nothing to do with us. If the profits go low, they will lay off their workers and ensure that they get the maximum profit that they want. This is the reason why we want to say, as leadership movement, enough is enough. When we come into power, we will make sure that foreigners pay their due and ensure that they are tenants in our country. We don't want to relinquish our birthright. We don't want them to own tax holidays and tax breaks. That is reserved to Zambian people, Zambian starters, Zambian businesses, and we don't want them, most of all, to own land with title deeds. We want Zambians to own land with title deeds.
Right, Doc, it's important we squeeze in a few questions before we close the program. I know we are in our dying minutes of the program, but of course, dear viewers, you are watching the Finance Live on MUVI TV with me, Innocent Puri, and of course, you can simply call me IP. My guest on the program once again is Dr. Richard SILUMBE, who is president of the leadership movement, who is also 2021 or this year's presidential aspirant. We are here to discuss a number of issues. You can be able to continue forwarding those questions that you have, and also suggestions as well as comments. We are also making sure that we continue as well to adhere to the measures being given by the Ministry of Health in terms of adhering to the 1 meter apart from each other, and also masking up, which of course I'm also doing that under a very, very difficult circumstance, but we have to do that. Doc, let's move on. And I've known you to be a very passionate academician who has highly spoken about the need to educate citizens in this country. I want to find out, how do you feel that when you form government anytime from now, how best are you going to ensure that every citizen is educated? We have seen a number of people today, they're unable to access education. They're unable to go to school because of lack of financial capacity, or maybe they've got no one to support them. Let's see, how different is your manifesto if you are given the powers by the people of Zambia?
First of all, as I believe that the education curriculum that we have is outdated and does not serve the purpose that we want to see as far as development is concerned. And I've lived in academia long enough to understand that what we are having today is a colonial education, education that produces graduates who are just tools, for instance, who are unable to innovate. They are taught how to work, how to do things. We want to start producing innovators, people who think outside the box. That is the kind of education that we want to bring into action in 2021. If we are given that mandate, starting from grade 1, we want to restructure the education system that makes a child to think outside the box, look for solution, be able to research and produce a solution that we need for every situation. We don't want this kind of education that makes people only memorize things, and they don't even know why they are memorizing those things. They don't even know the essence of learning those things. We want to put up courses that will build an entrepreneur, that will build an innovator. We want to produce engineers who are able to come out of the School of Engineering, be able to set up a company, start manufacturing copper next to KCM. You see, start a mining company, for instance, start producing cars, start producing whatever utensils that we see. We don't have such an education today. No wonder you see engineers or all these graduates, they want to sit in an office and work. And they want to, most importantly, to look for foreign companies to employ them. We don't want that. We are going to restructure the education so that
do you also plan, do you also have a plan to introduce a free education like others have spoken about?
Definitely.
From free education from grade 1 to tertiary level?
The kind of education system we are going to provide and support is not, as you call it, free education. Right. We want a person to be educated and at the same time to plow back to society. For instance, we have first-year students. Those who do not have support, they are going to be given that sponsorship by government to be in school, at the same time to be working in any government sector, any industry. Because we want to link industry with education. We don't want to produce graduates who go into an industry and they are surprised because they've never seen that before. From first year, a student will be working in as well as being educated. We want them to merge the real world scenario with the academic world, so that when they graduate, they are not new people, they are not new entrants. They are able to apply what they learned in whichever industry, whichever production environment, to what they want to do as entrepreneurs or as efficient graduates. We don't want industry to be laughing at graduates as it is today. When you go to any industry, they laugh at graduates. They say they are ill-prepared, and so on and so forth. Our government will ensure that every person who is under bursaries will be working. They will find time, because our government is a 24/7 government. Somebody can have 8 hours applied to education, another 8 hours in the field. And this is how we are going to produce makers of things, and not these theorists that we are seeing around. This is the reason why everybody is going to have access to education at tertiary level, because the only thing is that they have to provide their labor. We know that every person has something to contribute to the development of this country. So there's nothing like, no, me, I'm unprivileged, but you have your energy. You can give it in exchange for education. This is where we are going to merge, because this is a government that wants the energy of the youth, that wants to the maximum use of this energy, because we have a lot of things to make, a lot of work to do. We are going to have state farms in every district. We are going to have so many industries that we want to bring about. And some of that will be the cheapest labor the government will benefit from.
For the doubting minds, Doc, once again, I'll repeat this question because I would want you to further distinguish it from, of course, other political parties' manifestos that have gone through. In terms of offering free education, like you've pledged, we've also had other political parties like the UPND, for example, they are also speaking the same language. To say when we form government, we are going to ensure that we offer free education to the people of Zambia. You know, and of course, it's a similar tonation I'm hearing from you, from the leadership movement. Somebody who is watching you and listening might be confused right now to say perhaps your political party manifesto and also your policies in that manifestos are of the same, such as those from the UPND. Hence, we'll ask you a question to say, why can't you maybe work with others, such as the UPND and the other political parties who are also speaking about the same or similar message?
First of all, I wouldn't talk much about the UPND, but all I know is that what the leadership movement wants to do is not to offer free education as it is, because we know that everybody has something to contribute. Right. Apart from, when we talk about free education, it can only apply to maybe from grade 1 to grade 12. At that level where a person has, by law, they cannot work. But above that, these people have something to contribute to the development of this country. So it's not free, it's, you have to exchange that education with your work, your workmanship, with a service to the government. So that is as simple as that. I don't know whether that is what is in the mind of other political parties, but that is what the leadership movement wants to do, because we don't want to continue producing theorist graduates. We want graduates to be hands-on. We want graduates who are able to reinvent the future. We don't want to have just graduates for the sake of graduates running around with degrees and papers. We want real graduates, graduates who understand the industry, graduates who have measured knowledge in academia against the reality. There should be that cross-pollination of knowledge, other than just putting people in universities and colleges without getting something from them. We are going to see massive production, and we emphasize this because we want to absorb 4 million youths. This is why we are recruiting. As much as we are going to absorb that, we also need the energy of those youths who are in school to provide that support, that service in exchange to the education that we are giving them. So this is how all these developed countries, you see, like Russia, Korea, and all this, that's what they have done. They do not leave youths languishing in the streets because of lack of money or because of lack of jobs. We need to provide jobs to the youths, to the young people. We need to provide support to those who want to further their education, as much as we are encouraging them to provide that energy of the youth, reapply it into the wheels of development. We want to ensure that everybody participates. Everybody has something to contribute to the development of this country. When you have millions of young people languishing in the streets and you call it development, that can never be development, and will never develop until we put leaders who are able to think outside the box, leaders who are able to see things that others can't see. This is why leadership movement wants to give visionary leadership to this country. Visionary leaders are those leaders who are able to see what others can't see. And the moment you have such leadership, you are going to see countries flourishing. This is why we do not subscribe to issues to do with loans. When I ask you, where did the UK get the loan for it to be where it is? The answer is categorically nowhere. Australia, who loaned, who gave money to Australia to be where it is? No one. Who gave money to the USA? They fought with the United Kingdom, and they reinvented their wheels. They reinvented their future, and they are where they are today because of visionary leadership. with the kind of leadership that we administer in Zambia, we cannot develop because we are always looking to other people. We are always begging. Imagine the whole nation, the whole country like Zambia has been reduced to a mere street beggar, just laying their hands like this, looking for a coin. Who can give us money? We can't do this because we can't afford. We don't have money. We don't have money. It's not money that develops the country. It's ideas. Applying ideas when collaboration between your natural resource, the energy of the youth, with the natural resources that you have in the nation, that collaboration will produce. And the products you produce, those are the things you're going to extend to other countries in exchange for money, in exchange for whatever you want, and you grow as a country. This is the kind of mindset we are bringing in, not the colonial mindset that believes that anything foreign is better. You look down on whatever you have. No wonder we are saying it's support your local team. Local is laka, because we want to nurture a sustainable development, looking at what we have as a country.
Tell me something, once more, Doc. Does Zambia at the moment need a young president, a young leader like you?
That question, I think it can only be answered not by myself, but by the country itself. What is it that we want as a country? Do we need development? Are we sure as a country that we will be needing, in their need of development, whilst bringing back the same old politicians, the same people that we've tried again and again? No wonder people, when we talk about things, they say, we have heard those things before. We had some politicians talked about these people, about these things. But at the same time, these same people, they want the people they know. They will talk about experience in politics. They will talk about those people they know that they've been around. And meanwhile, they expect development. They expect new, different outcome. You can never get a different outcome when you are using the same people. Last time when I was on this program and you asked me about jobs, and you said the people, the PF government and Michael Sata had talked about this, and no wonder you cannot deliver. I said you cannot compare us to those recycled people who were in UNIP government, they failed. MMD government, they never did it. Now in PF government, how are they going to do it? So this is the kind of mindset that we need to develop as Zambian people, because we are so dependent on the same things that we look at, and yet we want different results. You can never do the same ways of doing things and expect new results until you try different people with a different mindset. You need to change your mindset. And this is why whenever we want to achieve things, we need to change the paradigm. There has to be a paradigm shift from a colonial mentality to a Zambian mentality. A colonial mentality that thinks that anything foreign is better, to a mentality that says, support your local team. Local is laka. This is what leadership movement is bringing in.
Is that the reason why you're calling Zambia as the old Zambia, because it's being presided by the old politicians?
Definitely, because it's being presided by people with the mindset that brought about the colonialism. We were found in a colonial environment because of the same mindset that thinks that we cannot develop, we cannot do anything until we go and ask for a loan from outside the country, when we have millions of young people with the energy of the youth. And when these foreigners come to this country, they exploit that. They just see that this country has too much vast resource. They can get thousands of young people, paying them 20 kwacha, do whatever they do. They build a road, they get billions back to their country. And yet you as government, you say we can't do this unless foreigners come.
How much support are you receiving from the young people in this country? with regards to your crusade to take over government?
We as leadership movement have a lot of programs on the ground. Actually, we are really moving at a very good speed. We have young people on board, and most of all, we have the women, because we recognize as leadership movement that without the women, when we leave behind our women, we can never develop, because these people, they are the custodian of families, and we have provided a national women empowerment program. We are currently doing a national women empowerment program in every district, in every province. We want to empower our women. We want to help them to start businesses and do so many things, because we don't want to leave them behind. Because our government is a government that will work tirelessly and unrelentingly to ensure that no vulnerable person is left behind. No orphan will be left to walk the streets in search of food. No widow will be left alone to fend for a family. It will be a government that feeds the hungry, that heals the sick, that comforts those who are widowed, and provides shelter to the homeless.
Doc, I will not let you go without giving a very brief comment with regards to two issues here. I'll give you 2 minutes as we close, a minute as we close. The first issue is the dismissal of Honorable Chitalu Chilufya after that scandal, the honeybee, the issues of medical, equipment, and the likes. If it was under your leadership, what measures or how were you going to handle that issue? The last question, I would want to also give a comment. What lessons should we learn as a country with regards to the election in Uganda?
First of all, on the issue of Dr. Chitalu Chilufya, that is what I've spoken for a long time. Without a punishment to such a one, Zambia is not learning anything from that dismissal or firing.
Right.
We needed that person to be in prison, and imprisoned for 37 years. That would have sent a very serious message to everybody that when you dare abuse government resources, and most of all, abuse the Zambian people themselves by providing them with defective supplies, you should be punished severely. If that were to be done, we would be very much appreciating this government.
By the way, he's not guilty, he's still innocent, because the matter is under investigation. So how possible that one can be sent to prison?
That is what I'm saying. I'm saying this should be taken to court, prosecuted, found guilty, and be imprisoned. If he is not guilty, he should be back as a minister. Then there is no problem. That is what we are saying. We are not saying we are going to do things outside the courts. We are saying that law will actually apply in the courts of law.
The Rwanda election, what lessons should we learn as a country? We are going to the polls as well. That will be in less than 5 months from now.
Uganda elections. There is little to be learned from foreign programs. One, because the environment with which those things are happening is totally different from the Zambian environment. Because as much as we are seeing a little bit of flexibility with government with regards to how politics are managed and so on and so forth. So in that place, it's a little bit severe, and we see no space for the opposition political parties. So really, we should only bemoan the fact that there is much dictatorial ways of dealing with governance there compared to what we have in the country today.
All right. Doc, allow me to wish you all the best in your political career once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dear viewers, we end our discussion here. My guest has been Leadership Movement President Dr. Richard SILUMBE. Of course, Join me next week as we bring to you another guest. My name is Innocent Piri IP. Allow me to, of course, appreciate my director, Charity Mtonga, and also the upstairs fantastic team. Ashbe, welcome back. And also, we appreciate you. May God bless Zambia. May God bless Mother Africa. Good night.